Okay, so was it interesting to discover in our last episode that Count Poseidon was actually George Daniels, aka Slick, who had been arrested twice and spent 2 terms in Sing Sing for being a fraud? And was it interesting to know that we also discovered in the last video that Pamela JOCELYN, Mrs. Reginald JOCELYN, was making advances towards the Count Poseidon in his cabin? He tells all, she denies all, and apparently she has worked up a story with her husband, where they were at the time of the murder, to cover their tracks. Have you solved it yet? Do you know who done it yet? And hey, welcome to the Dealer's book series. I'm Christina, KRSTIN8. This is where I read books, talk about books, no special effects, no G music. And this is episode 6. And I didn't think it was going to take this long to get through all this stuff, but it is. So I'm trying to decide if I air these episodes on a daily basis or if I do them on a weekly basis. I think daily. I think I'm going to stick with the daily. My co-host is passed out over here. So, we will continue. I put the who's who in the description, so I'm not going to go through that all again. But we have Detective Officer Kettering is questioning the suspects. And like I said, it's all in the description. So I'm not going to go through all that again. We may in the future, but all right. So we are, Detective Officer name, shorthand notes of Detective Officer Kettering's 3rd examination of the Honorable Reginald JOCELYN. Good morning, Mr. JOCELYN. Good morning, officer. There are a few more things I want to ask you about the series of events which preceded the discovery of BOLITHO BLANE's death. Right away. According to your previous statements, you were on deck with Miss ROCKSAVAGE when the yacht sailed from Miami. You both went below together, but in your statements, the times vary. You say that you came down to your cabin at 7:30, whereas Miss Rockbridge says you came down at 7:15. Now, which is it, 7:30 or 7:15? Can you get me an actual time? I don't think so. I know what life is at pleasant company on board ship, but you're enjoying yourself. Time only goes too quickly. It's always time to have a swim or go to lunch or change for dinner or something. I see. You find Miss ROCKSAVAGE's company very enjoyable, do you? Certainly, she's a very amusing, intelligent young woman, and incidentally, she's my hostess, so it is to her due that I devote a particular amount of time to her. I see. You can't get nearer to the time you went below. Then it might have been 7:15, or it might have been 7:30. No, if McRoster said it was 7:15, I don't doubt she's right. Well then, let's agree that was so. You went below at 7:15, and you didn't arrive changing your lunch till 8:30. That is an hour and a quarter. You mean to tell me that it took you that long to change? Dear, how pernickety policeman are you? I always take my time changing, and he spends quite a bit of time in the tub. Can you tell me how long you spent in your bath that evening? Not exactly. I was already in a quarter to 8 because my wife came down from the lounge at that time, and I asked her what time it was, and she told you 7:45. I find that very interesting. I think you have arranged your stories. You have worked out your alibis, gotten them together, do we say? I'm just saying. Hey, honey, let's say we were together at the time, 7:45. You got it. I got it. Why? You'll find out, friend, before this inquiry is over. Now, was it your invitation that Count Poseidon joined this party? Was it? Yes. Do you mind telling me why? And tell me when you stumbled that he was a crook? What the hell do you mean? Just what I say. Count Poseidon is known to the police and his intimates as Slick Daniels, card shark, and con man who just trades the Atlantic ships. And would you like me to tell you just the sum that Slick took off of you in Normandy before you tumbled to it that he was a crook? I see. Poseidon is a crook, and you find him out. then jumped to it that he murdered Blaine. So, to protect himself, he's faked up some cock and bull story involving me, has he? Well, officer, that won't wash. You needn't think it will. I had not the least reason in the world to wish any ill to Blaine, and very fortunately for me, as it happens, my wife can prove that. I was lying in my bath at 7:45, when we all know that Blaine was still alive from the fact that he scribbled something on the back of the note that was sent down to him at the time. How do you know that? Mr. ROCKSAVAGE told me, and if you don't mind interrupting, as I was about to add, my wife having been with me in our suite from 7:45 until we arrived in the lounge at 8:30 together. That proves quite conclusively that we didn't have anything to do with his death because we were together. Does it, Mr. Jocelyn? I wonder. I'm quite satisfied that Slick didn't do his job. Murder is absolutely outside his line of work. Whatever may have led you to suppose when you had your little talk about Blaine in Normandy. I suppose that's another portion of Poseidon's story that he told you. It happens to have been my job to spend a good portion of my life examining the criminal classes, and so officers like myself get a sort of feeling as to when they're telling the truth and when they're not. It's my belief that Slick has come clean with me, and in any case, it's pretty satisfied about his movements during the time under review. So I think you'd better come out and tell me the truth. Tell me what you were doing. You seem to have had a grudge against Blaine, and he took advantage of your invitation because it gave him the opportunity to mix with a swell crowd where he might have picked up a lot of loose money. But if we're to believe his statement, you had far more cause to wish Blaine out of the way than he had. You were in a pretty bad spot, Mr. Jocelyn, and I think the time has come that you'd better stop lying and tell me the truth. You're really not insisting that I did Blaine in. I am. But this is fantastic. Besides, I've already told you that my wife can prove that she found me in my bath at 7:45 and that we were never out of each other's sight from that time until 8:30. I'd advise you to stop lying, Mr. Jocelyn. I have just your wife did not find you in your bath at 7:45 because she was somewhere else at that time, and for the best part of half an hour onwards. During that time, I don't know where you were, but it may quite have well been in Blaine's cabin. In fact, it's going to look like that unless you can provide another explanation. All right, I'm saying your wife is lying. You want to come clean now, Mr. Jocelyn? I was in my bath, I tell you. All I know is that when my wife came into the cabin, I asked her what time it was, and she said 7:45. She may have been wrong. It may have been much later, but I don't know because I was in the bath. So there. It was much later. That doesn't improve your situation because you definitely wanted Blaine out of the way, and unless you can bring some evidence to show that you were doing between 7:45 and 8:15, I must assume that since you lied to me on the other matters, you're lying now. Now look here, officer, whether my wife was right or wrong about the time, I don't know. I was taking a bath. Is there a man on board this yacht who had far more reason to wish Blaine out of the way than I did? Who? Why, ROCKSAVAGE, of course. 2 days ago, he was bankrupt. Now Blaine's shares have gone to pot, as anybody knew they would the moment he was dead. ROCKSAVAGE has been buying every share in Blaine's company as they came on the market. He was picking up Angus Suds at 17.25 yesterday, and Red Meyer syndicates at 32. He's standing to make a fortune over this thing, because on Blaine's death had been announced, he was able to get all the financial backing he needed without the least trouble. Whereas nobody would loan him a bob for the last 15 months. The whole of the world's soap interest in his pocket today. Don't you realize that? And the thing that he's got to thank for is Mr. Blaine's death. Yes, I see that, but there's one point you seem to have forgotten, or perhaps you didn't know it, because you wouldn't have the same opportunities that I've had to check up on these sheets. ROCKSAVAGE did not leave the lounge to go below and change until 8:10, and even then he wasn't back in the lounge till 8:35. 5 minutes late for dinner. A man could hardly have changed in that time if he had murdered another man and had to dispose of the body and wash blood stain out of the carpet too. Could he? That's all you know. Rock Savage could do it. Maybe he'd help. Uh, why? Only the night before we reached Miami, he was prepared to bet anything that he could change for dinner in under 4 minutes. The Count or Slick, as you call him, took him on. $100 even money, and Rock Savage won the bet. He was back in the lounge, changed in under 4 minutes after he left us. If he could do it then he could do it again. Really? They really did that kind of stupid bet? Why would they do some kind of stupid bet like that on how fast a person can change? Who would do that? I would never even think about something like that. How fast they can change. A quick change artist? I don't believe, I just don't get it. I don't understand it at all. Thank you, Mr. Jocelyn. I find that a very interesting story. That is just weird. That is just totally weird. Detective Officer name shorthand notes of Detective Officer Kettering's second examination of Miss Ferrari Rockbridge. Good morning, Miss Rockbridge. Good morning. Sorry to trouble you again, but there's a little difference of opinion between Mr. Jocelyn and yourself as to what time you came down from the top deck on the evening of Blane's death. He said it was 7:30, and you say it was 7:15. Can you clear that up? I'm afraid not. I really didn't notice the time, and perhaps it was 20 or 25 past 7. But surely you're not suggesting that I had anything. No, of course not, Miss Rocksavage. But saying it was even as late as 7:25, you didn't get to the lounge until 8:40. That's an hour and a quarter after you came below. Surely that's a long time for a lady to change for dinner. Oh, good God, no. I've seen some of them do it a couple hours. But I told you yesterday that I didn't start to change at once. I was reading a book in my cabin for half an hour or so after I came down. Ah, yes, I remember that, but you had so much spare time on your hands. It seems a little strange that you should have been 10 minutes late for dinner. I was interested in my book and I forgot. You must know how easy it is to do if you are deep in an exciting story. My maid will tell you that I did not ring for her until nearly 8:15. That's why I was late. I see. And you did not see Mr. Jocelyn again after, say, 7:30 at the latest until you reached the lounge at 8:40? Why do you ask that? Well, I'm just going to let you in on something, Miss Rocksavidge, which I want you to keep to yourself. It's not your moments that I'm interested in. It's Mr. Jocelyn's. You don't think? I don't know, Miss Rocksavidge, but unless he can bring somebody forward to vouch for him from where he was between 7:30 and 8:10, things aren't looking too good for him. No, I wasn't with him after 7:30 at the latest. All right, Miss Savage, thank you. Detective Officer name shorthand notes of Detective Officer Kettering's examination of Miss Rocksavage's maid, Nellie Ord. Come on in, Miss Nord. Don't look so scared now. I'm not gonna bite you. I'm just quite questioning. Okay, I'm not scared. That's the way. Now you're Miss Rockridge's maid, aren't you? Do you help her to dress every evening? Yes. Did you help her dress the night of the Blaine got his? Yes. How long were you with her? She rang for me about 10 after 8, and we weren't through until 9:15. How'd you find her when you came along? All right. She was always cheerful. I'll give her that. She made me hustle, though, getting out of her dress. That's so. How was the cabin? Just like always. Was it all tidy, or did it look as though she'd been a party in there? If she'd had 10 parties, I wouldn't be telling you. I like Miss Ferrari and I like my job. I get it. Maybe you wouldn't object to a party yourself sometime. Okay. Next interview. Detective Kettering offers his name, second-hand notes of Detective Officer Kettering's second examination of Carlton Savage. Good morning, Mr. Savage. Kirk Savage. Good morning, Kettering. What's the latest on the quote for Angus Suds? Oh, they opened market at 13.5 this morning. But why do you want to know? I was just thinking what a fine break it is for you that Blaine should have faded out just as he did. What do you mean by that? Only that you must be picking up those Argus shares by the bucketful and making a fine thing out of it. That's all, Mr. Rock Savage. Now look here, what are you insinuating? I'm not insinuating anything. I'm only voicing what is quite apparent to anybody who knows anything of your financial situation. Uh-oh. Everything you say is true. I admit that. As you would see it, I had strong motive for putting Blaine out of the way. But very fortunately, the facts of the case are absolutely beyond any suspicion. I did not leave the lounge until 10 past 8, so how could I have possibly murdered a man, disposed of his body, and changed for dinner all in 20 minutes? 25, Minister ROCKSAVAGE. You didn't get back to the lounge till 8:35, and I hear you're an expert quick change artist. Aha! You shouldn't have done that thing the night before. You just shouldn't have done that. Quick change. Who the hell does those kind of bets? Who makes those kind of bets? He tells me you wagered Count Pasini $100 that you could change in under 4 minutes on the night before Blaine's death, and you won the bet. So JOCELYN said that, did he? Wait a minute. How'd you know that he didn't do his job? I passed him in the passage still unchanged at 10 past 8 when I went down to change myself. Did you now? I did, so perhaps you'll excuse your talents in finding out what he was up to between 7:45 and 8:10. There was much more time for him to have done his job than me. He hadn't your motive. Yes, he certainly did. He's always lived above his income. For the last 5 years, he's been entirely dependent on Lady Welter. She's in a jam because of those fool papers she runs. She loses a packet on them every year. Yet she won't give them up because she just lives for this Christian crusading business. If I failed to do a deal with Blaine, she would have gone under with me, and young Jocelyn would have found himself on his uppers. Ah, there's something going on there. There's something going on there. He stood to benefit just as much as Blaine's death as I did. More, in fact, because even if ROCKSAVAGE Consolidated had gone down the drain, I would have other resources. I get your point, Mr. ROCKSAVAGE. What about the Jap? What about him? Well, he stood to lose $1 million if Blaine had lived long enough to come to an arrangement with you. I'd certainly like to hear some of that information. It's this way. Officially, he's acting for the Shoku people, and he's trying to sell me the Japanese soap monopoly on their behalf for months past. But he's playing ball with another crowd called the TOTOMI Soap Company on the side. They're in a position where they might be able to queer the pitch as a home-producing firm by rousing national opinion against the monopoly going outside Japan. Unless they're squared first, their price was $1 million. So Heishi wouldn't have got it all, but I'll bet he stood for a pretty useful split. I wouldn't conclude, though, once I got the idea of coming to terms with Blaine. But if my deal with him had fallen through, Hashi knew he could count on my signing up. It's a plain sailing for him now. Blaine's out of the way. And you know those Orientals are. He had a mighty strong motive to do Blaine in order to prevent Blaine and me from getting together. Oh, that's certainly something to work on, Mr. Savage. Good, and there's no trouble I won't go into helping your investigation. I don't need telling you that sort of thing my people are going to say on account of Blaine having died on my yacht. So it's to my best interest that you solve this case. I guess it is. Detective Officer names shorthand notes of Detective Officer Kettering's second examination of Lady Welter. Come in, Miss Welter. I hope you're feeling a little more reasonable this morning. I've got to ask you more questions. I find all this very tiresome. I've already told you what I know. It hasn't occurred to you, I suppose you might be charged with it? What? You're mad. I didn't do it. You can make any report you like, but it won't alter the fact that you had very strong motive from wishing Blaine dead. This is ridiculous. Not at all. You lost a big portion of your fortune in 1929. You've been paying up those losses on these papers, which you run for years, and now you're up against it because ROCKSAVAGE companies in which the remainder of your money is invested is losing a lot this year. Owing to Blaine's death, ROCKSAVAGE is back on its feet again, and you with him. Well, if that is so, Miss ROCKSAVAGE benefits by this Blaine's death just as much as I do. You're wrong there. ROCKSAVAGE has other assets outside of soap companies, whereas you don't. This is absurd. As though an elderly woman like myself could murder a man and push him out the portal. You're only 55, Lady Welter, and strong, well-preserved woman at that. Let me assure you that we have seen women do crazy things. So I need to confirm your whereabouts between 7:05 until you arrived in the lounge at 8:05. Oh, yes, the young man. My maid was with me, helping me dress for dinner. Oh, now that puts a very different light complexion on it. But why didn't you tell me that before, Lady Welter? Because I didn't think you'd be such a fool as to suspect a woman like myself of the crime. Was she with you the whole time? No. I rang for her when I reached my cabin, and she was with me for a half an hour until I finished. Wait a minute then. That only gets us to 7:35, and we know Blaine was alive at 7:45. You were already changed, and you had 20 minutes, therefore, in which you might have done the job. I was in my cabin the whole time. So you say, but I want proof. And you're a wise woman. Do your best to do it. Hey, you can't prove a damn thing. Take my word for it. Dang. I'm afraid I want something more than that. You were doing all the time. Well, if you must know, I was knitting a jumper. I only have one sleeve to do, so I thought I could finish it before I went to dinner. Can you give me proof of that? Yes, my maid knows just how far I got with the jumper before I dressed that evening, and I left it unfinished on the table for her to press when I left my cabin a half hour later. Can you produce the jumper, Lady Welter? Yes, I can get it. All right. Detective Officer named shorthand of Detective Officer Kettering's examination of Lady Walter's maid, Mildred Short. Come in, Mildred. Just a few questions. I want to ask you about what happened on the night Mr. Blaine met his death. Yes, sir. What time did Lady Welter ring for you? 7:10, sir. And how long were you with her? Under a half hour, sir. I went back in the service room below at 25 to 8. Lady Welter was knitting a jumper that day, was she? Yes, sir. Do you remember how far she got with it before she sent it out? She only had half a sleeve left to do, sir. How long would that take her? About a half hour, sir. It's only a short sleeve, you see. When you came back to the cabin after she'd gone up, did you notice that the jumper was the same, or had she done anything to it? I didn't see it, sir. In fact, I was wondering yesterday what happened to it because I hadn't seen it since. Is that so? I thought Mrs. Welter told her to iron it. Isn't that what she said in the previous paper? Did I not read that? Am I wrong? Um, uh, yeah. I left for her to press when I left my cabin. But the maid says she didn't see it. Ah, interesting. Detective Officer named shorthand notes of Detective Officer Kettering's second examination of Mr. Hayashi. Good morning, Mr. Hayashi. Good morning, officer. I don't think you were frank with me yesterday. Oh, but I'm always frank. I answer everything you ask, yes? The lighting in here is ridiculous. Maybe you didn't go out of your way to give me any extra information, did you? For instance, you didn't tell me that you had written Mr. Blaine a note. I did not think that had any bearing on the case. Oh, excuse me, that had a huge bearing on the case. He did not come to my cabin. When did Blaine come to your cabin? No, he didn't come to my cabin. What time did you go to his? I didn't go to his, poor man. He ignored my note. What time did you send that postcard along to him? 7:10, soon after Mr. Blaine came on board. I wrote it in the small writing room here and sent it down to him. What were you so anxious to see him about? It's quite simple. I have the disposal of the soap monopoly of my country in my hands. I must get the best price for my country that I can. I've been negotiating for its sale by correspondence with Mr. ROCKSAVAGE and Mr. Blaine, but neither would make a different offer. I knew that if these two got together, my chances would be gone. That would have put an end to their competition, and my government would have to accept it much lesser prices in consequence. It was my business, therefore, to try to arrange a deal with one of these two men before they met. I spoke to Mr. ROCKSAVAGE soon after I came on board in the afternoon, and he was unwilling to deal, so then he wanted to deal with Mr. Blaine. And he hoped Mr. Blaine could be persuaded to see the wisdom of saving himself in this manner before he opened negotiations with Mr. ROCKSAVAGE. And what did you hope to gain for yourself? Myself, nothing. I'm only an employee. Uh-huh. I don't believe you. This is very suggestive of you, sir. Now, you can cut out the high morale stuff, and I warn you that you had best come clean. Mr. ROCKSAVAGE has given me the lowdown on the situation. You'd have us believe that you were trying to get the highest price you can for your people, but you were trying to do it for yourself so you could make the most profit. That I deny. Deny it if you like, but it's the truth, and we can prove it. I don't understand why you accuse me of murder of this man. That's about what it looks like to me. No, please, you make a mistake. I have no hand in it, none whatsoever. Do you deny that Mr. ROCKSAVAGE offered you a big bribe, which you intended to split with the Tasami Soap Company? On that question, I not give my answer now. I reserve it for my defense. Should you make the error to charge me with this crime? Unfortunately, you are unable to prove any alibi. You say you went to your cabin at 6:10, and you did not arrange change in the lounge until. But I came again. I wrote the postcard which you found in Mr. Blaine's cabin in this writing room between 7 and 10 past. You might have mentioned that yesterday. What did you do then? I went down again. Well, the ship doesn't help us, as you were in your cabin at 7:45 and 8:15. During that 30 minutes, you may have murdered Mr. Blaine, as I suggested. No. I was in the cabin all the time, working, please, on my papers, and the steward can prove it. I was there at 7:50. I rang for him. Why? To bring me some writing paper. When I asked for it before, there was none, as the chief steward had only just returned from Miami, and he had the key to the store where it's locked up. That's why I wrote first on postcard. The steward came back with the writing paper about 5 minutes after I asked for it. Were you changed then? No, I had not changed. I was still in the lounge suit at 5 to 8. The steward can prove then. How then could I have changed my clothes and murdered a man in that short space of 20 minutes? Of course, the other guy proved it by changing in 4 minutes. I wrote a long letter. Where is it? I see no reason why I should answer that question. The document is a secret one and can add nothing to your investigation. Mr. Hayashi, you don't seem to realize that you are under suspicion of committed murder. It is vital for your own suspicion that you produce any evidence that will free you of this crime. It may be true. I hope sincerely, detective, that you will not do anything foolish as to charge me with murder. I have assured you that the letter exists. It can be produced, and if produced, could clear me of suspicion immediately. It would also make me rather a fool of you, so I pray you do not force me to produce it. These Oriental tricks don't wash with me. He better produce it soon. Detective Officer named shorthand notes of Detective Officer Kettering, second examination of the Bishop of BUDE. Good morning, Bishop. I hope you're feeling all right today. That was rotten business. You were throwing a feint on us yesterday. Thank you. I'm better now. My heart knows been troubling me for some time. Well, that's real bad, particularly as I've got to ask you some rather unpleasant questions. I cannot think what they would be about. I hope that you are so far for your sake. I want your truth about your relationship with Bartholomew Blaine. A casual acquaintance made years ago. I barely knew the man, as I told you. Now that won't do. You evidently haven't looked in your black dispatch box this morning, or you'd realize that when I was searching the cabins yesterday, I removed that letter from Blaine wrote you a few days ago about Adeline Claridge in New York. He spoke of a wonderful friendship you had for each other. Oh, about that. What an extraordinary letter it was, wasn't it? It took some kind of joke. I could hardly regard it as anything else. But I did remember from my meeting with him in the past that Blaine had a very queer sense of humor. Pointless sort of joke, wasn't it? Quite pointless. I don't get it. Um, uh, you remember that nasty business in 1917, so nasty that we just won't talk about it. You were in up to the neck and Blaine knew it. For reasons we needn't go into, he decided not to spill the beans at the time, so you managed to get away with it. If you hadn't, you wouldn't be a bishop today, but Blaine hadn't forgotten. He had the goods on you, and he could end your career. See, now stuff comes to light here. I protest, sir. An Episcopal court exonerated me completely. Any Episcopal court might have preferred to give you the benefit of the doubt rather than a prominent churchman involved in a public scandal. Be careful, sir. I warn you. I should worry you wouldn't dare to rake that unsavory scandal up by bringing an action in civil court unless you're very careful. What do you mean? Well, maybe you won't have to rake it up, but that largely depends on you. It's my duty to get to the man who murdered Bartholomew Blaine. If you give me your assistance, I can do my best to keep this out of the conversation. That's very kind of you. Of course, you must quite understand, officer, that there's no foundation for these charges. You came below to your cabin at 7:05 on the night of Blaine's death, and you did not appear in the lounge until 8:05. What were you doing during all the time? I was in my cabin, honest Injun. I want the truth. Can you give me any proof that was so? No, fear I cannot. You realize this is a serious situation. Here is the man, Blaine. He who knew something which he might have published to your detriment. He writes you a letter from New York containing a veiled threat that in circumstances that he might give you away. If you started to change, then you would have 45 minutes in which to do so, in which you could bring around to 7:45 and 15 minutes before you appeared in the lounge to kill a man. But you're surely not suggesting that. I am. But, my sir, this is really, well, it's a really strong case against you unless you can prove where you were. Absolutely nothing except changing in my cabin. Okay. He's being honest there. Detective Officer Kettering's fourth report continued. Having re-examined all the parties, I proceeded to a new analysis of the situation and come to a fresh draft of possible motives. Time to update my PowerPoint. Mrs. Jocelyn, none as far as I know. Count Poseidon, a motive. He admits that it was through Blaine's agency that he was sent down for his first term in Sing Sing, and that Jocelyn brought him on board with the deliberate intention of doing some gambling and winning some money and possibly making some friends to go to New York to make more money for gambling parties. Mr. ROCKSAVAGE, strong motive, and it is now proved, owing to his capability of changing in under 4 minutes, that he had ample opportunity to commit the crime. The bishop of Bude, strong motive. In the bishop's previous statement, he said that he only met Blaine casually in English County once 7 years ago. Appears he does not deny that he met Blaine in France in 1917, but Blaine's letter shows that there was more than that between them. He's holding something back. Lady Welter, strong motive, owing to the fact that it looks as though she would have completely bankrupt if ROCKSAVAGE's company had gone under and no longer in a position to finance the papers. Mr. Hayashi, strong motive. It now appears that he stood to lose a considerable amount of money if the merger went through. Mr. Jocelyn, strong motive. Lady Welter's bankruptcy could have thrown him back into the precarious existence he was leading between 1923 and 1931, with the additional burden of a wife to support. And the fact that he's still lying about his whereabouts at 7:45, and that he worked up his story with his wife, who is already known to have given a false statement. Miss ROCKSAVAGE, none as far as I know at the moment. Detective Kettering's fourth report continued. The foregoing examinations and the writing of the report have occupied me all morning, and at this moment I admit that I am completely baffled. Only the two stewards, the ship's carpenter and steward, are conclusively ruled out, it having been quite impossible for them, any of them, or any other member of the crew to have committed this crime. Against Miss ROCKSAVAGE's and the Honorable Miss Jocelyn, we have no evidence of motive, but both of them had opportunity. On the other hand, there was a motive, and in many cases very strong motive, against Count Poseidon, Mr. ROCKSAVAGE, the Bishop of Bude, Lady Welter, Mr. Hayashi, and the Honorable Reginald Jocelyn. All of these has opportunities. A report will follow further this evening. I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start this one, the next video. Let's see, or maybe I should do this now. All right, let's just do this now. Because it starts something else. Detective Officer Kettering's fifth report. After lunch today, Mr. ROCKSAVAGE came to me and said that he would like to see me privately. We went to the small writing room together, and he told me that our interview of the morning had greatly upset him. He again protested to his complete innocence in Blane's death, and in spite of any unpleasantness which might arise for him out of the matter, he decided to inform me of certain facts that would clear him altogether. He then sent for Dr. Ackland, his personal doctor who always travels with him, and in the presence of the doctor, Detective Officer NEAME, and myself, he made the following involuntary statement. Okay. Voluntary statement made by Mr. Carlton ROCKSAVAGE, 1038, October 3rd, 1936. As a man who is responsible for many millions of other people's money, I've been subject to bouts of acute worry at times. When my affairs have not been going well, in consequence, a few years, I took to the habit of administering drugs to myself by injection. The purpose not being to allay nerves, but to keep me from further efforts at the time when I was suffering severe strain. Mr. Ackland has always prepared these injections for me, and on the night in question, I brought him down to my cabin with me for this purpose, as I anticipated having to enter into a strenuous conversation with Blaine that night after dinner. It was customary for me to rest for a quarter of an hour after the injection, in order that the drug might take effect. So the doctor is confirming all this information. So, what do you think? Do you know who did it yet? We have one more batch of papers here, and then we have the conclusion. So that'll be next. Episode 7 coming up next. Oh, don't forget, Star Trek Fridays recaps, and If Then Friday afternoons, and JD Rob Saturdays, and Unboxing Sundays, Flashback Mondays, and my daily book reviews, although August has turned into this detective thing. So who did it? Do you know who did it yet? Do you know? Let's find out tomorrow. Have a good one.